I see myself as a drummer first and foremost, both out of choice but also out of necessity. See, when I grew up, my two best friends and I, we lived on the same street together. One of them played the piano really well and the other one played the guitar really well. So the choice left for me was either the bass or drums. As fate would have it, I ended up with a drum set for no particular reason, but I instantly fell in love with the instrument and spent so much time playing it. But drum sets are very loud, and so my dad helped renovate part of our garage and turn it into a small rehearsal space for us where we could play and record and do whatever we wanted. But it was great because it was renovated in such a way where the audio levels were mitigated, through sound insulation and absorption panels and whatever we had. And so we could play most hours of the day and night without really bothering too many people. And when I moved apartments and later countries, it was really tough for me to play drums without, infuriating my neighbors or getting kicked out of my apartment. And so I had dabbled with guitars in the past, sort of playing one melody on one string and taking a long time doing so. But I found myself in London, England at the start of 2015. And I had started a new job and I had been given a bonus, which for me at the time was a very substantial amount of money. And so I did what most reasonable people would do and went straight to the music store, had a look around and bought the nicest guitar that I could find, which within reason. And I bought a Gretsch Electromatic. It was orange, it was a semi-acoustic guitar. I still have it and I still love that guitar. And I decided in order to justify this exorbitant price tag, it was £620 I think at the time, which is roughly twice that in dollars. I said to myself, I have to learn how to play a complicated song and I have to do it well. So I practiced the same song over and over again. I decided on a song by The Tallest Man on Earth. It's called Love Is All. It's a very good song if you haven't heard it. And it sounded really complicated to me. And I played it and played it and played it until I could play most of it, I think. And I had a really nice time doing so, in spite of blisters on my fingertips and pain and being frustrated with not making enough progress fast enough. But it started my journey with the guitar. And having played a lot since, because it is a really nice instrument to have at hand when I'm sitting in my couch or in my home office chair, I'm able to think about music in a different way. If music is all about melody, harmony, and rhythm, obviously the drums take care of the rhythmic part really well, and if you're a talented drummer, maybe include some of the other aspects too. But with a guitar, all of a sudden song structures and more interesting sonic landscapes become really accessible and easy to play around with. And so I think by me learning how to play the guitar has really opened my eyes in terms of being a musician and not only a drummer. And so I would recommend learning how to play the guitar as a second instrument to everyone, to make you better at the instrument you already play. I'm not the most technically proficient or fastest or best guitar player by any stretch of the imagination, but that hasn't really been my objective. I want to create music that I think sounds good and I want to have a good time doing it. And by those metrics alone, I think I've been successful. Throughout my playing, I've hit a couple of significant milestones that have elevated both the sound and the experience of playing the guitar, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. So I mentioned at the very beginning I played on one string and I would sort of play a melody up and down on the same string. The step up from that was learning how to play some of the chords, and you don't have to learn how to play all the chords at once. Start with the chords that are part of songs you like. For the song I'm making today, I'll be playing an A minor, and I'll be playing a C, I'll be playing a D minor, I'll be playing an F variation with an open top string, and I'll be playing a G variation that sounds something like this, and I'm also playing this chord. And I would recommend that sort of parallel journey of both learning to go through a couple of chords, you can find charts online, and also seeing what are some simple songs that you recognize and like, and you can start playing along with those. Start with very simple strumming. It doesn't have to be on time necessarily, but you want to be able to feel like you're progressing and you're making music. At some point in your playing, you might encounter the F chord, which can look at a couple of different ways. Here's one where you have to press two strings with one finger, or this chord here, which is a bar chord. Once you learn how to play the F bar chord, that takes your playing to a whole new level, because all of a sudden you can transpose things. You can play this chord, or you can play this chord, or you can play this chord. and you can alternate between a major or a minor variation with relative ease. And as long as you get away from some of the buzzing sounds and make sure that you press the strings hard enough but not too hard to exhaust yourself, and you make it sound good, you can transpose songs, you can access new chords more quickly. And then the next step up from there is shifting between this type of bar chord to this A minor type of bar chord or A major type of bar chord. And that opens up a whole lot of opportunities to play more songs and to strum in ways that are not as awkward when it comes to the transitions. When you're first starting out and you're switching between chords, it might take a while. It might start with you playing the chord, lifting up your fingers, and then trying to figure out where all your fingers go, and then pressing down on all the right strings at the right places, and then playing the next one, which obviously doesn't flow very well in the context of playing music or playing a song. So once you have the bar chords down, you can strum a little bit easier and the transitions are faster. But the next step for me was learning how the different transitions could work. So if you play, in the case of the song we're playing today, the A chord and you want to switch to a C chord, you don't have to move all your fingers. You just need to move one finger, your ring finger. And then you can do that really quickly. And you also, if you're playing something other than just strumming, if you're playing more fingerstyle playing, it makes it a little bit easier to prioritize which fingers do you press down on first. And so you can give yourself a little bit more time if you know that there's a particular sequence in which your fingers need to move from one chord shape to the next. It makes it easier to shift between chords, and it also helps you prioritize which string to play next when you're strumming or playing fingerstyle. The next step was one that was kind of groundbreaking for me. It's something called Travis picking, which is, I'll play it in a very simple rhythmic shape. It's when you alternate the bass notes with your thumb, and then you add additional notes that are embellishments or syncopations with your long finger and your index finger. So the traditional Travis picking rhythm would go like this. It takes a while to get into it. If you've done it for long enough, it becomes second nature. The first song that you encounter using Travis picking will likely be very difficult to learn, but once you get through it, the benefits start to compound. The second time it will be a lot easier. The third time it will feel like a breeze, and by the fourth time you can do it in your sleep. And this makes so many chords sound so musical. It makes it feel like this is music that you could hear on the radio or on one of your favorite records. It really opens up a ton of possibilities, and this was the point where I felt like I can create music that sounds good to me. Before that, I was sort of just keeping up, but Travis picking was a big deal for me. And then once you get into Travis picking and you know the chords you need to know and you know how to play them so they don't buzz too much or they ring through as much as you want, then you can start to think about embellishments. So what are notes that you can hammer on, like this, and do pull-offs, like that, and you can walk up and down. So in the song I'm playing today, I'll be doing this. So as a way of transitioning between chords, you can embellish them, you can make them sound a little bit more interesting, tie them together so it sounds not just like you know the basic chords, but you've made them your own. I don't think I'll be using it today, but you can slide from one note to the next, and you can do bends and turn that into something that sounds musical too. The next step up for me was learning the pentatonic scales. So pentatonic means 5 tones, I suppose. And I'll share a chart on the screen and you can see that there are different positions. It initially felt like homework, it took a lot of practice, but once I got to the point where I remembered these, I could improvise, I could play solos, I could play melodies, I could play along with music in a completely different way from what I had been able to do in the past. Once you've reached this point, this is when you can start layering your sounds. So you have the foundation, the chords, the way you pick them, and also the melody, the solos, the improvisation on top. It becomes a lot more complex. If you do this right, you can make really good music. This is when you can start to think of how do you balance the playing with the solo over the chords. How do you create silence or emphasis or create something that's busier or more laid back. There are so many options for you here. Once you get to this point, there's not too much stopping you. Find inspiration, listen to songs you like, see how they follow these rules, see how they break out of these rules, and try maybe the elements from your favorite songs and steal them like any great artist would. YouTube is a great place to find inspiration in terms of tutorials and also performances, and you can see how all your favorite artists are phrasing things and how they are constructing their melodies, and building their songs. And you can think about how you add things like effects to take your playing to the next level and create something that's, again, more in line with what you yourself would like to hear. And like most things in life, if you want to get good at something, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of practice. And intentional, effective practice, to me, has always been in the form of recording myself. So I can see sort of how am I playing this, where are the opportunities for improvement, which chords sound really good, which section does not sound so good or does not have a good melody that gels with it, and give yourself the constructive feedback and do it again and again and again. It's also a lot of fun to play along with your own recordings and taking them from what you thought was a finished product to alternate variations of something. By recording yourself, it makes it a lot easier to understand not what it feels like to play something, but how it's received from the audience perspective. And you can give yourself constructive feedback for how you can do it better next time. Also, if you want to share your playing at some point, at this point probably, that makes a lot of sense. Sharing holds you accountable. It makes you practice harder, it gives you an end goal, it forces you to really drill down on the details and make sure that you share something that you're proud of. Those are the steps that I think have been important to improving my playing. If I missed something and you know something else, please let me know in the comments. And if you watched all this way, thank you so much. Why do you want to learn how to play the guitar? Do you know how to play the guitar? Please let me know a little bit about your story too. I would love to see it. Thank you for everyone who's watching, subscribing, leaving comments. An extra special thank you to my supporters on Patreon. I'll be playing the song now. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.